Two, one. Welcome everyone to Ladder Daily Digest and Momo Nomo. Momo Nomo is nowhere to be seen. No, Randy has for a New Year's resolution has decided to not drink water and got dehydrated and fell and bumped his head. So he's going to take off tonight and drink some water. So anyway, Tim, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody out there.
Yeah. Do you have any resolutions that you can think of right off the bat?
I don't like to do them.
You don't like? I don't like to do them anyway. To me, they're just suggestions. They're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool, whatever.
I don't.
You have a resolution of going to Thrive.
Oh, okay. Going to Thrive. Yes, going to Thrive in St. George. In about 6 weeks, we'll be going to Thrive.
And so forever, we're going to do like a half-hour show, and then we're going to keep on the stream, and then we're going to do the after show live as well.
Yeah, we want to keep it.
We're
going to keep it. We're going to keep it short tonight. To the point. And
Tim also didn't have that great of a throat this morning.
Yeah,
I was sick most of the day. Last month, and so I got it first, I think, amongst a group of people. So anyhow, one thing that I teased about on one of our other shows is that I said that my New Year's resolution was going to be kind of dietary. And so what I'm going to do is 2 days a week, I'm going to try to consume less than 1,000 calories with, like an increased amount of proteins and fats and a lowered amount of carbs. And so I did it yesterday, and I thought maybe I'd try it today, but then I think I hit like 1,000 calories about an hour ago. And now that Randy's out, we're going to end this early, so that means I have time to eat ice cream later. So it's going to be over 1,000 calories. When I was on vacation, when I go visit my daughter in Arizona, I always feel like it's an eating competition. She has lots of food. She has lots of varieties of things. She likes to purchase things for tastes. And we also had a turkey. We brought a turkey, so we had turkey, and then you have turkey sandwiches afterwards, turkey soup one day, I think, And so yes, there was lots of eating. It was a festive time that we had, and I gained about 5 pounds, but I'm down about 2.5 from there. So anyway, Jules.
Hey, how's it going, Gene?
Good. Do you have any? Do you do New Year's resolutions at all?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I have in the past, and I'm going back to this one. I've already signed up for one triathlon. Goal is 3 this year.
Wow.
Actually, I think I got myself sick trying to train the first day.
Yeah, you got to take it slow, huh?
Yeah. Well, I ran 2 miles, and I think I hadn't had enough caloric intake. That this morning I woke up all dizzy, cool, clammy. So those were signs of a classic hypoglycemia.
Is it possible we could crowdsource your training, and if we each take a day of the week and like ran a mile, that would help you out any?
Possible, but you got to swim some of it too.
So yes, we would if we could, right?
Yeah, and since we're all Exmos, you guys could do part of my biking too.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's see. One thing Tim and I were joking about, maybe we should have a resolution of keeping our shows to under an hour, just to be nice and tight instead of wandering around sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I sort of joked at the beginning that we were going to do the
half hour.
30 minutes in and see what happens. Let's see. So Jules, what you been doing this the last couple of weeks?
Oh, let's see. New Year's Eve had a big. We had lots of people come over. So it was my family, my nephews, like his father or the grandfather of his wife and his brother-in-law. And then New Year's, it was just home with mom right here, and that was it. And Thomas. Can't forget the dog.
Yeah.
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 I've entered Thomas into America's favorite pet competition.
Okay.
America's favorite. Cool.
Here's my favorite pet. Right there.
Cool.
Let's see. Another thing I was thinking of doing is going for more walks. When it's good weather, we're lucky to go on a paired walk with each other, my wife and I, about 3, maybe 4 times a week. And so the days off I haven't been taking advantage of. So I've decided that, and then in rainy weather, we do even less, maybe 1 or 2 a week. But I've decided to do my own walks just to keep those walks up. So we'll see. My prediction is I'm going to lose 20 pounds by March 1st. We'll see what happens. Oh, and I'm drinking more water.
Yeah.
Because somebody said that if you drink a lot of water and you're dieting, you don't feel as bad.
They say it fills you up more, and that way you're not taking in as much as the junk food as
I probably should eat more celery and carrots. Those don't have very many calories, and it gets you chewing.
Right.
And so songs would have come on the show, but she says she doesn't do resolutions. So that's okay.
Well, she'd come on the show anyway.
She could. She could come in the after show.
Come on, songs.
17 minutes. And Trevor, I put the link in if you want to come on.
Yeah, I'm surprised Trevor's not here.
Well, he's such a good person in the chat, but it's hard to tease somebody when they're doing their resolution. So Trevor won't have very much ammunition, although he still could. It's like what I think John, what was it, Mormonish? Mormon News Roundup. They were talking about the awards, I think, and Trevor was hoping to get the chatter of the year or something, and I can't remember what it was.
Didn't Megan and Megan and
Kirsten
gave him an award?
That's what it was. Megan's channel.
Snarkness of the year.
Yeah, and Megan would have come on tonight, but she's exhausted from doing stuff that she's been doing, and so we hope that she gets better as well. And so Tim's taking a call from Mar-a-Lago, I think.
It is the 5-year anniversary, right? Of the insurrection.
Oh yeah, today's the 5-year anniversary. That was so weird, huh? And then I remember seeing the guy that was dressed up like Captain Moroni with his title of Liberty.
Yeah.
And it was just a crazy, crazy thing. And thanks, Joe, for being in the chat. Yeah, well, it wasn't the Brody Awards. It was Megan and Kirsten gave their own awards out. Yeah, ex-Mormon Snark.
Ex-Mormon Snark, yeah.
The Snarkiest live chatter. And then I think they were going to have like the worst commenter, and Trevor was like, I want that award too. So anyhow, got to figure out how to do this thing. Let's see. So what's been, you looking back, one of your best notes to yourself for improving yourself, or something you always wanted to do? Like, I don't know if you had a goal to go to Yellowstone Park or something like that
Well,
in the past. Did you ever have one that you thought was really cool and you achieved it?
oh, for last year or just in general?
Any years in the past?
Any years in the past? Well, one was when I accomplished my first triathlon. I thought that was fun. And then visiting places that you see. I mean, I did take a trip for a week to New Mexico to do some training. But in that week, my friend and I visited so many places. We went to the Very Large Array. We went to Roswell. You know,
Wow.
this was way before I moved out there.
I think Roswell is on my bucket list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't get to visit Four Corners, though. I would have liked to have done that.
Did you ever see the movie Paul?
No.
So it's about two Brits go to Comic-Con, and they also are planning a road trip in America to go see the UFO places. And Simon Pegg is and then Nick, his buddy, that's in a lot of his movies, they star. And then who's the guy that's in that movie where Nick and Mira make a porno? You know who that comedian is? Seth Rogen.
Seth
Okay,
Rogen.
yeah.
Seth Rogen is the voice of an alien, of a CGI
Paul.
of Paul. And to me it's a great movie. And what's her name from Saturday Night Live plays this born again Christian girl who has a disease in her eye. Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah. And so she sees the alien and she says, "Devil!" And he goes, "Oh," and the alien goes, "Oh, you can't live with these people, you know, whatever." And they talk to her, and then they become a little bit of friends. And Paul rubs his hand together and puts his hand on her head, and, you know, basically has the power of the priesthood, but, you know, it's only in movies. But anyway, heals her eye, right? And she goes, "Wow!" And then he also later on gives her the knowledge of the universe, and she's just like flabbergasted that religion's not true. So she says, "Well, if religion is not true, I should start swearing." And they're saying, "Yeah, you know, give it a shot." So she starts doing these mild swear words like titty farts and stuff like that. And then she gets crazier and crazier. And Paul says, "You know what? Sometimes less is more." And so, but I recommend it to people. And when he's given the knowledge, they fast forward a whole bunch of things that includes monkeys becoming, you know, evolving, whatever, into man, and other mathematical formulas and different things like that. But anyhow, it's just a funny movie.
It's a very funny movie.
I got the video and I slowed it down really slow so I could see what all the different pictures they were flashing by. It's pretty funny. So anyhow, Tim, have you ever had a New Year's resolution that you thought was really cool and you ended up achieving it?
It's been years.
Like, I'm going to kiss a girl this year. That was a teenager. Did that ever happen?
No. Well, I did because no.
How old were you when you had your first date kiss or girlfriend kiss?
I think 13 or 14.
Did you hold hands at the movie theater?
Yeah.
Did you do that slowly, creep your hand over and touch? And if she doesn't move away, then you put your little finger on her hand and then you do more?
Maybe. You're talking a long, long time ago in my brain.
That's right. Hundreds of years, maybe.
A long time ago. I might have.
It's all black and white then, right?
Yeah, it
That's
was
right.
all.
Everything was in black and white.
And silent.
I remember thinking that when asking my parents, like as a 7 or 8 year old, because we were merging from black and white TVs to color TVs,
So TVs.
and some things were still in black and white, especially things that were made in the past.
Well, my dad got the color TV in summer of 1966, right before Star Trek premiered. I remember that. We had a black and white up until that time. And they got a color TV that summer. What was it? Sylvania or something? Anyway, I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
So did your family like Star Trek?
My sister and I watched it. No, yeah.
I only remember seeing a few of the prime time ones. Most of everything I saw was the reruns when I'd come home from like middle school or something in the
It
70s.
was on the afternoon. Yeah.
Every day at 5 o'clock in the Bay Area, probably for like 20 years on either channel 36 or 44 or whatever it was.
Yeah, we lived in Colorado then, and I used to come up from work and turn it on, and my little sister Nancy would watch it with me. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite episode?
Oh, my favorite episode is Doomsday Machine.
Yes.
I think that's the best episode of the series. I think it's the best.
And maybe one of the most accomplished actors,
Yeah, William Wyndham. Definitely.
came on the
Definitely.
show, and he played a aging wild-eyed
Commodore Decker.
Commodore Decker, and he finds a way to help the Enterprise kill the Doomsday Machine, but it cost him his life.
Cost him his life. Yeah.
Was he wearing a red shirt?
No, it was a gold shirt. He was a command. It was
Yeah.
gold.
Just always
I
the ones in
remember
red
him because he played lead in The Secret Life of.
No, My World and Welcome to It.
My World. Was that
And
about
Welcome to
James
It.
Thurber?
James Thurber's story. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a pretty cool book a friend had me read, and it's called Everything I Learned About Life it was from watching Star Trek. And it's funny the correlations you can find in life to Star Trek. And that was one of the big ones. The person in the red shirt always died, and you want to take on the Kirk effect, if you want to get a woman, you have to act like Kirk. It's like
He gets all the babes, even the green ones.
yeah, it was actually a very good book. It's thin, and I read it in a day, and it was very interesting.
Hellfire Agency says he's never kept a New Year's resolution, and Trevor says he's never set a resolution of any kind.
Okay, that's fine.
That's probably because Trevor had nothing. He saw no need of improvement.
Trevor's perfect, right, Trevor? You're perfect.
Yeah, there's a why change.
Is he perfect at imperfection?
And Hellfire must be perfect at imperfection.
Like, why worry about perfection?
Exactly. Exactly.
Nobody can be.
Well, wait. We're all perfect.
In our own way.
Perfect as we are, just as we are. We're complete.
Yeah. That's right. Trevor's going to make sure he helps some plants grow in the future. That's right. They have technology where, and Randy's talked about it on our show, where you can be buried in like a mushroom blanket or something and become part of the earth, part of the cycle of life.
I like Joe's idea about being, floating up in a weather balloon into space. Did you ever watch that episode he did?
Who?
Joe.
No.
Exmo Joe.
Exmo Joe. He talked about floating your ashes up into the atmosphere.
And then releasing them.
Yeah, because once the weather balloon blows up, it would just be in the atmosphere. That was
Huh.
I kind of liked it.
That's an interesting idea.
I remember watching Deepak Chopra say something like 12 years ago on PBS, where we are all flaking off our dead skin, and people are breathing it. And when we exhale, some of our cells come out, and it all swirls up, and then people breathe in. So we're all connected. we all have bits and pieces of each other.
Each other inside of us.
That's what most of the dust in your house is your skin.
Yeah,
cells.
yeah. I prefer the "we're made out of star stuff" analogy more than we suck each other's dust up. That doesn't seem as poetic.
See, Joe calls it the ascension.
Okay, Joe. All right, Joe. Cool. No, I can't remember any. Gosh, it's been so long since I've set a resolution. My main one is to find a place to live this year. That's about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I can move.
So you have a goal of living this year then?
That's right. Yeah. Living.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have to take another call?
No. Morris, our dog just came in.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not.
So if you were to move, would you move to Alabama near
No.
Who came up with the Messiah priority?
Brett Metcalf. No, I wouldn't move there.
You wouldn't want to move next to him?
No.
I flew that idea past my wife, and she said no as well. So looks like it's just me.
I don't know what he's doing down there, but it must be interesting. Alabama and Louisiana are the 49th and 50th states in everything in the country. So,
New Mexico's down there too.
Yeah, but not as low as.
It might be first in like dental problems or relatives. There might be more relatives. They might be more related in Alabama to each other than other states. So let's see. I had a thought, and I was wondering if you wanted to do a whole show on it, or just something we can just talk now.
New Mexico is 48th.
Okay. Yep, I knew they were down there.
Oh, are you going to do a show today? Are you going to do a show after this show?
I'm not. I'm doing a show. Well, yes, but tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 8:00? Not
yeah.
Tonight? Oh, I thought it was tonight. Okay.
I was going to do it tonight, but it got too juicy, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lot of prep just to get to the point where I can even show all the crap to go over. This whole Nick Shirley thing took off in a whole different direction all of a sudden.
Well, the national
rabbit hole, right?
Too.
Yeah, the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Are you going to compare Nick Shirley to Joseph Smith?
It's I don't need to. It's right now the Mormon creators have been pretty actively trying to shame all these frauds, not just in daycare centers in Minnesota. I came to discover that there was a whole episode Nick Shirley did with Shane Baldwin, the who went to prison for fraud. Doesn't mention that. And they go to Colorado City down here and go tour, do more of their fake news, touring one of the old houses of Warren Jeff's wives to find that it's a sober living facility now that almost nobody lives in. Okay, whatever. And talk about how wicked and corrupted Warren Jeffs is, because he thought he could be a leader like Joseph Smith, but he was a polygamist who committed crimes and went to jail. So obviously he can't be a true prophet like Joseph Smith. And I'm sitting here, and besides that, took wives, some of them young girls, other men's wives as his
Oh.
own wives. Can you imagine?
Perfect example of somebody who's not
I wonder where he
receiving
got the
anything
idea.
from the Lord.
Gee, yeah, where did you get that
Obviously.
idea?
And then they do little disclaimers all along about our church once practiced polygamy too, but it was very short lived, and it was nothing like this. It was nothing like
Short-lived.
this. Yeah.
Short-lived.
Yeah. So I decided, I mean, between that and then the Paul brothers took, once again, today, I think it was, I captured it, just took to the waves to once again shame all immigrants who are Muslim and explain how Islam and Muhammad are warriors, religious warriors for, for injustice. And, they're not peace loving Christian people like us. And, and how people must suffer in the world to live under a religion that promotes so much violence like Muhammad did. And I'm sitting in the comments saying, don't put second Muhammad, don't put second Muhammad, don't put second Muhammad, don't say Thomas P. Morris, save it. So in any event, I said, well, we need a whole episode just on how these guys take to the airwaves regularly to shame other people's religion and in the process expose Joseph Smith all the way.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Do the Paul brothers have their own channel?
So this is the Mormon Pauls.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah,
like-
I know which ones they are.
Yep, they have two of them. They have the Stick of Joseph, and then they have
And they
this-
honor me.
And then they honor Gene with another channel called Latter Daily Saints.
Yeah, they're the ones that are Marines, right?
Yeah, you got it. That's them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've been since this Nick Shirley thing. They basically take weekly they've taken every week now to their channel with Latter Daily Saints blazing behind Hayden Paul to say, yeah, so people are going to say I'm racist or Islamophobic for saying this, but I don't get how. And then start spewing, as you can imagine, spewing Islamophobic and racist stuff. So it's like, wow, guys. But I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, there are people in America who hate Islam. I'm not a fan of Islam myself. It's not, but to say, well, but the slanderous things they're saying about all Somali immigrants or all immigrants who are Muslims or in all countries that are majority Muslim, and saying these horrible things and saying, well, this is just their religion. Their religion is just violent and does these terrible things, especially to young girls. And I'm like, you hypocrites. I'm sorry, you hypocrites. So I've been calling them out, not that anybody's noticed, but we're going to get more notice now. 2026 is the year of the horse.
All right, cool. So what is this, Gene, that you were thinking about proposing?
Oh yeah. So I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Joe, but people, when I was growing up, if they were atheists in high school or college or something, and I said I was, religious somehow or other, and they'd say, well, I think religion is just a crutch. And I was thinking, what do they mean by that, right?
Mhm.
And so anyway, I thought it would be good to do a show, or we could just talk about it here, about what were they talking. I think I figured it out. Well, Joe, why do you think people say religion is a crutch? And so a crutch helps you walk, right?
When you're injured.
When you're injured. And
So, yeah, I think that we as atheists, most of us, like Mormon, like the ex-Mormon angry phase, there's a toxic atheist phase, and you can stay stuck in it forever. But one of the things we atheists tend to do, yeah, right, it is in your power. You are capable. But one of the things that we as atheists, I think, part of our healing, our emotional and spiritual healing, is learning to realize, number one, we were once where they were, for as the case most of most atheists, and we wouldn't judge ourselves quite so harshly, hopefully, except when we're totally neurotic. But that we should also consider that if it really is a crutch, kicking it out from underneath them isn't exactly the compassionate thing to do either. And so, I think what people mean when they say that it's a crutch is similar, not quite, but similar to what Marx meant when he said that religion was the opiate of the masses. When Marx said that, he meant it favorably, though. Marx meant it to say, if the masses, if the working class people are going to have any consolation especially, under the
It's
systems,
self-soothing.
yeah, they have to have a sense of purpose. And if you're not going to give them the money for a living wage, and you're not going to give them the resources to survive, you're going to have to tell them that they're waiting on a hope for a better life in the next life. That's their real reward. And then hence why, the Pope came out with a document specifically calling Jewish materialism and communism and democracy all manifestations of the devil in the modern world. It's like, well, okay, because kings rely on some form of capitalism, which is really just feudalism, and feudalism relies on that people believe in God so that they don't have to expect in this life, so they don't fall into expecting that in this life you should be compensated for the work that you do. You hope for a compensation of the life to come. So that's why I think Karl Marx said, so that becomes the opiate of the masses. It's their only solace, is that one day God will give me justice. I think when people say, though, that religion is a crutch, what they mean to say is that it's something you believe when you're weak, and there's something for that, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say I'd probably go with vulnerable was probably a kinder word. I'd say there's a moment when there are times in all of our lives where we look around and we say, I just don't get why I had to lose on the same weekend that I lost my dog. I had to lose my dad, and my car wouldn't start. And I don't understand why I had to go through that all at once. And so they say, just like the opiate of the masses, I don't know, God will give me justice. God will make it up for me somewhere along the line. And so for some people, it's like that's for all of us at some point in our lives. If we don't have some kind of metaphysical hope, then we're going to have to come up with at least an acceptance that, fate's just a bitch sometimes, which I think is a healthier thing to accept. But boy, you have to be the right place in life to be able to say that, to be able to say, sometimes it's just rotten luck. And so that's what I think.
The universe does not care about any of us or anything that we do.
Yeah, or anything else for that matter.
Or anything else. That's right. Doesn't care.
Right. I mean, but it is important to, I think it's enlightened to at least observe that if something inside the universe can care about something, that's true. Right. But you only know that because you are in the universe and you care.
That's right.
That's why I say that, if it matters to me, then it matters.
So I kind of likened it, and I just thought about this. One of my first memes I ever made, like 5 years ago, when I was first starting to use the power of Facebook to pontificate about the joys of unbelief. I thought about Dumbo. And Dumbo thought he needed a feather in order to fly. And so my meme was, I pointed like me to Dumbo. Of course, I got big ears. But the mouse was the church, and the feather was like what the church told us we needed to have in order to succeed in life. So feather could have been the church or whatever. And in a way, that's like a crutch for Dumbo, right? He always had the power to fly. But it did help him to have confidence to hold that
feather.
But once he figured out he could fly without the feather, he was way better off because then he didn't have to search for it, didn't have to keep the feather safe in his drawer next to his patriarchal blessing or keep consecrated oil to keep on blessing it or anything like that. All those things, So to me,
good idea.
that's an example of the crutch that the person might have been talking about, because we all have power in ourselves and we don't really need a crutch unless we're told we're broken by somebody. And the person who tells us we're broken gives us a crutch.
I think that that's interesting. Using pop culture parable here, I would often, when I was Mormon, I would often think about the leap of faith in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Remember that, when he goes to take a step in the ravine, and it's like the last one. It's like the one.
Only the penitent shall pass.
That's the first one.
Yeah. And he steps down, and there's a bridge.
Right.
You don't see the bridge.
Right. But it's just it's textured so that it looks like the ravine,
the abyss.
Right. And then he goes, and then the first thing he does, though, and I love this. When I think back on this now, it's funny to me now, is that I think, but the thing is that Indiana, it's the only one he can't genius his way out of. He just has to put his leg out and take the leap of faith and just do it. And then but as soon as he gets across that bridge, what does he do? He takes some some sand, like some limestone sand, and throws it over the bridge so that whoever comes after him can see there's a bridge. And I'm like, that's me. That's what I would do. I would be like, fuck whoever did this.
Right. It's like the faith part is just a trick.
Right.
Yeah, but I thought that I remember thinking it's impressive because that analogy, I remember thinking what's genius about that is that if somebody, it's either way, somebody's mocking you kind of in a way, because one is I put this bridge here and I disguised it specific. That a mind put a bridge there just to make it specifically look like there was no way.
A very good painter.
Right. Or they didn't put anything there and somebody's sitting there watching like, oh, here comes another one. Here comes another one. Look, Tommy's going to put his foot out. Look at that. There he goes. Either way, you just kind of have to, the leap of faith is humiliate yourself for God's amusement. And that to me was always kind of bothersome, but also felt right.
Yeah. If it was a snake pit, he wouldn't even try to cross it.
No. Not at all.
That's fine.
Not at all.
And then ultimately the ultimate test is picking the grail, but that's a whole other story.
That's right. Oh, he would pick a rich, whatever,
right.
A bejeweled cup.
That's the one that I think back to most now, that ever since I read Richard Carrier's books on the historicity of Jesus. And there's that the reason why he knew which one it was is that's the cup of a carpenter. And I'm like, it doesn't say ever that he was a carpenter. It says that Joseph was a carpenter. It doesn't ever say Jesus was a carpenter. And would we even believe that? Number one. Number two, do you know what that word means? Because there's like a whole bunch of different interpretations of what a carpenter means.
Really? Give us a couple extra ones.
My understanding is there's at least some. This is not from Dr. Carrier's work. This is from other things I've heard. Is that some people have said that means that he was some kind of craftsman, including perhaps an alchemist of some kind. That he practiced some kind of
I
magic
never heard.
craft.
Whoa,
wizard, Harry.
Wow. And so it's like, but I mean, and if he was some kind of healer, that would lend if Joseph was a healer, it would lend some credibility to Jesus being born among the Essenes. And the Essenes, that we know from Josephus, there were basically three categories of Jewish people, Jewish adherents in that time. They had the Pharisees and Sadducees. You had the Pharisees, I think it's like the temple cult, the Pharisees and Sadducees, then the Zealots, or maybe it was the Pharisees and then it's the Pharisees and then the Sadducees, and then the Essenes.
Okay.
And
what we
Right.
need to do is find out what the word is in the original in the language
That Josephus wrote.
what Carpenter was translated from.
Right. Well, and you're at a loss there because no original manuscripts of any of the Gospels exist today that we
Right.
know of, at least. And so it's like now we're at not only what does the most ancient manuscript that we have say, but what was said in all of the versions before it.
Well,
So-
it's just like this guy wrote a book about the portion in Josephus that mentions Jesus. He's proven that it was added later on, that it's not the earlier manuscript,
Sure.
that it was added.
And it's been shown again and again that the Testimonium Flavianum was interpolation, that he added it later. Now,
Yeah.
is there some possibility that there was a passing reference to Jesus as a figure made by Josephus, and somebody interpolated that and said, "There's not enough here. We gotta beef up Jesus." Frankly, I don't know how we would even know, right? So it's a
Right.
curious thing. So I love that. Richard's come out with this. I swear Richard is not paying me anything for these endorsements. But I just love his work so much. He's
I
come
would
out with
love his work. I just wish I could read.
Richard who? What's
Luckily-
the author?
Richard
Carrier,
Carrier.
PhD. His newest book is called The
He also does
Obs-
videos.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I watched a video of his just recently.
He wrote this book called The Obsolete Paradigm of the Historical Jesus. I just got it. But he does them as audiobooks too, Gene. So you can listen to them. Do not start with on the historicity of Jesus. That's like the scholarly work, and it is verbose. So I would start with The Obsolete Paradigm. That's what I'm starting with now. But also he has one called Jesus from Outer Space, which was really good. More down to earth, practical, not so wordy. And then he has another one that's a scholarly introduction to historicity that's called Proving History, about how he came up with the idea of using Bayes' theorem to justify probability theory around whether or not something or someone exists in history. And it's a pretty compelling thing.
Carrie Schertz about a year and a half ago did a Bayes' theorem sort of series on the Backyard Professor.
Cool.
So this book, Joseph Smith, what does it say underneath there?
The Architect of Mormonism, a topical biography.
The Architect of Mormonism. So Ganesh writes this book showing, his thesis is that Joseph Smith is all throughout the Book of Mormon. I remember reading things about authors usually write what they know as their first book. A lot of times it's a lot of biographical things. And it would make sense that almost every writer would write what they know, right? If I was into tech, I could write a tech spy novel, right? If I was into tech, it'd be hard for me to write a novel about daycare centers, right? And so it makes me think that other scriptures were probably written the same way. And Dan McClellan says all the scripture writers in the Old Testament, according to scholars, they all wrote it for the people of their time, right? So they're
Exactly.
going to write for the people of their time. They're going to write their own experiences and something like that.
Right.
And so,
people need to pay attention to the fact that at that time, entertainment and religion were the same thing pretty much. And entertainment, to read a novel or to go to a movie or to, go to church, those are the same basic thing. I mean, it was all about going somewhere, hearing a story, and the truthfulness.
that's right. And church
in
was
the
just
story.
some crazy guy in the corner, right?
It could be in some
Downtown.
of them. Some
there
of
was
them,
no
yeah.
On a
church.
hill somewhere.
There was no church.
Right. There were
There-
synagogues in Jesus' day. I mean, but
Yeah.
they're not quite what we know now. They didn't have nearly as big of a canon at the time. But you know, and at the time, you know, for people to read other texts from other cultures was not, you know, unheard of, and to consider them valid gods, you know, and people, some, you know, that when it talks about you go whoring after other gods, it's not saying after those gods that don't exist in the Bible. It's saying after the other gods, and
That
they're
everybody's talking about.
right. Wow. So it's like, you know, to say, well, okay, Christians never would have given any credence to the existence of the dying and rising God. So all you atheists who come out saying, well, Jesus is just compiled from the dying and rising gods, you know, and their mysteries can, you know, go jump in a lake. It's like, you apparently don't realize how commonplace it was to believe in somebody else's religious paradigm and even be jealous of it,
Exactly.
want to participate in it, practice it, you know. That
Right.
even if you read the Bible, you mean you read about, you know, what it says, the what does it say in the princes and principalities, you know, in some passage in the New Testament, that actually, if you read it, it says the archons of our age. And archons was not just was a Greek word that didn't just mean rulers in a world, because principalities really isn't a thing at that time. It was more a reference to the daemons and the metaphysical beings that most people in the Hellenized world, in the Greek world, believed ruled over the humors and the vapors and, you know, the mystical realm. And so, if you know, it's really a crime. I've been watching Hayden Carroll's channel. I don't know if you know about this, but he does a Hayden Carroll it's called like Talk with Hayden Carroll. Anyway, he does Mormon apologetics, and the irony of it is that all of his debates and conversations would make excellent drinking games, because it's just like him and like Christians going at each other about what the Bible says, and like hardly ever does a Greek word come out of their mouths except that it's English. And it's like, well, it says here this word and this word, so that's what it means. It's like you're both reading it in English. And
I'm going to declare a New Year's resolution where I'm going to try to get Ganesh Cherian and Dan McClellan to write a book together where they talk about all the writings in the Bible, what that could have said more about the writer than it says about religion.
Oh,
What was going on in that writer's life, and just, you know, say whatever the hell you want that's entertaining.
I got a very good compliment. I hope she doesn't mind my saying so. This morning, I got a text from Renee Steelman.
Oh.
You know, as you know, I did a show with her just recently to some controversial effect, and we become good friends. And she said, I just watched an interview you gave on Mormon Book Reviews a year ago, and you totally gave me a totally fresh outlook on how Joseph Smith claimed to have written the Book of Mormon. And I said, oh, wow, thank you.
What did I say?
What did I say? The only thing I can think is that she's talking about the out to lunch theory. And remember I told you to say that? I thought that the story of Korihor and Alma derails as quickly as it does because Joseph Smith got hungry because it was lunchtime and decided to just finish off the story, kill off Korihor, and run off to lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, they were human beings. That's the thing, is that, you know, it's like whether you believe that the Book of Mormon was written by ancient prophets or by 19th century prophets, you have to believe that it's written by human beings. And guess what? Human beings get hungry. All of them. All of them get hungry. Their blood sugar gets low, and they start phoning it in.
exactly.
So when I try to get my children to do something by encouraging them to do something, or I try to become friends with somebody that doesn't really want to be friends with me, or, you know, that much or whatever, I think about the scripture. How oft would a hen gather her chickens, and ye would not. That's what I think was going on in that writer's mind at the time. Somebody that they wanted to pay attention to them wasn't giving them back attention. And so they wrote that as scripture.
Yeah, that's a good one. You know, there's so much in the Gospels that's interesting. I mean, now we're on that topic. What's interesting is how much anti-Semitism there is in the Gospels for a story supposedly written by Jewish disciples of a Jewish Messiah. How much Jew hate is in it. And especially, I had mentioned this on, I forget who it was. I think it was Ward Radio. I don't remember. It was some debate where Mormons were in there, and I'm like, or was it? It might not have been Mormons. I forget. I wish I could remember which one it was. This is really very wishy-washy now. But anyways, I had thrown in there. I'm like, well, you look at the Gospel of John. You ever quote out of the Gospel of John, particularly? You're quoting out of the most anti-Semitic of the Gospels. And I got hit with a whole bunch of LOLs by these people who supposedly are, are biblical scholars or studied people in terms of the Bible, saying anti-Semitism in the Gospel of John. Who's this guy? What's he all about? I'm like, I don't think that's really controversial. That's pretty easy to say. John's audience is Rome. Romans hated Jews. So all of a sudden, Pilate is in his story. Pilate says something different. Pilate does something different. The Romans don't want anything to do with it, but the Jews insist, and the Jews are this and the Jews are that. It's like, yeah, that created
Hitler. That one book alone created Hitler.
There's a lot about that, and about Jonah. I'm always going to say this wrong. Johannine.
For centuries.
Johannine.
Johannine. Jews, because the Jews are the ones that gave up Jesus.
Right.
The Jews are the ones that killed Jesus. Right?
But of course, in Matthew, it's not like that at all.
No, the Romans killed Jesus.
That's right. Exactly.
Not the Jews.
But then I was startled. You know, there's what's the guy's name? There's a rabbi. Is he a rabbi?
But just hold that thought for a second. Yeah. But more than likely, the Gospel of John was written as Bible fan fiction by Jesus fans in 1st or 2nd century Greece.
Right. 2nd century.
2nd century Greece.
As far as we can tell, all of the Gospels were written in 2nd century. Yes. At earliest.
And the names were attached later on.
Yes, they were written anonymously.
None of them were written by Matthew that we can tell.
Bart Ehrman was over for lunch today, and he told me that. No, I'm just kidding. I watched a video.
Well, have you seen these? If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, here's this one for you, okay? Marcion's Gospel, or Marcion. Most people call him Marcion. But there's this German scholar who teaches now, I think, at Oxford, or has like a residency at Oxford. And he said this idea, and it just like threw me for a loop. And he, in one of his papers, he says, in Greek, you wouldn't say Marcion, you would say Markion. And for the Greek, for the early church fathers, for the patristic, church, to have a gospel that sounds like the name of it is Markion would have been a great way to replace, to hot swipe the gospel of Markion with their own version. And suddenly, lo and behold, let's take this one, we'll call it Mark's Gospel. Does that mean that Marcion predates any version of Mark and is the earliest gospel? They don't know, but it's a plausible theory. And that's curious because it appears that the original, the way that Marcion's gospel is written, there's no divinity to Jesus, which is the way that the original Matthew, which was called the gospel according to the Hebrews, it does the same thing. Jesus is not divine in the gospel. In that one, Jesus is the son of Mary and Joseph, but in Marcion's gospel, it would appear Jesus could absolutely be the Gnostic Jesus, who's the son of Sophia, and and lives in heaven. And it's like, this is and it's so much more complex than any Christians want to give it credit for, and that's super interesting. When it crosses over from criticism to fascinating to curiosity is like my favorite thing about Mormon history, and it's my favorite thing about Christian history. So it's like that's fascinating. It's fascinating to me to think that there were no patriarchs. That pretty much, as far as I know, it's pretty, at least dignified scholars, secular scholars, agree that the patriarchs never existed. Well, that's not a slam on the Bible. That's a curiosity about the Bible. It's like, well, okay, so where did these stories come from? And to look at that and say, all of these Levantic tribes, they borrowed and stole from each other because that's what people did back then, because they're constantly being merged into households and families and ruling classes and being traded between empires, and and to maintain some kind of identity. It's like, you know what, we've lost our story. Here, we'll take a piece of your story, we'll take a piece of our story, we'll make a new story, and then all of a sudden
it's basically just 2,500 years ago, Marvel versus DC.
right.
Figure out who wins.
Can
And
I address
Capcom.
something in the chat?
Yes, go ahead.
This guy, Marquetta Armstrong 339, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. The
So,
Rosetta Stone
I think
was found.
Marquita is a woman,
Okay.
and she's curious about things. She comments a lot.
Okay. Okay. The Rosetta Stone was found in the early 1800s, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And the first papers were published in French in the 1810, 18 teens, and nothing reached America till the 1830s, 20s, maybe 30s, and it would have been academic, and Joseph Smith would not have known anything about it. So do your research on the Rosetta Stone and its history and when the first paper was published in English before you even talk about it, because you don't know
And
what you're talking about.
And we could say one thing is clear, according to Dan Vogel and other people, it's obvious that people in Joseph Smith's time that didn't know hieroglyphics thought that the pictogram was like a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so Joseph took one of those pictograms of hieroglyphics and would write sentence after sentence after sentence. And once the Egyptologists studied the Rosetta Stone, those characters were just the first sound of the next thing. That's what I understand. Like,
the Rosetta Stone had an engraving of Egyptian and Greek, so that's the only way they could translate. That's where you learned how to translate Egyptian, was from the Greek. Okay. But it wasn't until like the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s that it was widely known in the world. Maybe not even that soon. Okay. And you're talking about somebody that galloped away in a buggy out of town. I don't know what you're talking about there. Joseph Smith met Seychelles. I can't remember. Jacobs or Seychelles was a teacher at Oberlin College who taught Hebrew. That's who taught Joseph Smith Hebrew. And then later on, Jacob Neubauer, who, by the way, is Hugh Nibley's great-great-grandfather. Neubauer came from England, and he was a Jew, and he joined the church, and he was another one who taught Joseph Smith about Hebrew and about the Kabbalah and all those sacred teachings. So that's how we get part of that in Mormonism. Okay. But do your research on the Rosetta Stone.
We could also say, to my understanding, this is what it is. And she says that Bryce Blankenagel talks about it.
I don't know who that is.
On Myth Vision.
Okay.
And so Bryce Blankenagel was on Myth Vision?
That's what Marquita says.
Okay. Now, and also, there's nothing to do with the Rosetta
I'm going
Stone.
to put in the chat the latest episode.
The Rosetta Stone
I love those
and
guys in Myth
the
Vision.
Dead Sea Scrolls have nothing to do with each other. One is Egyptian and the other one is Hebrew. One is written on lambskin and goat skin, and the other one is in stone. And they were thousands of miles apart, hundreds of miles. when they were found. Anyway, okay, we can watch it later on.
Yeah. So and Marquita, just because one other scholar has a theory about something, or maybe they have documentation that Tim or I or Joe hasn't seen, right? Doesn't mean that Tim or Joe or I are bad. It's just our current understanding, and we always are willing to learn more. Even Tim, in his old age, is willing to learn more. But Tim also likes to think that he knows everything.
No, I know nothing. I don't know anything at all.
Sergeant Schultz.
He's a local
No.
Socrates. All he
I
knows
have
is
no
that he knows
knowledge.
nothing.
I know that I know nothing, but I know you may be referring to the Greek Psalter episode
Oh,
about the buggy when a guy brought a Greek Psalter to Joseph Smith and
See,
Nabu and asked him.
I have high blood pressure, so I have to stay away from Salter.
Okay, all right. So that's another story. You may be getting these things confused.
you gotta call it
Anyway.
ladder. You gotta call it ladder daily dad jokes, man. This is
Yeah,
like the
that
dad
daily dad
jokes.
jokes.
Gene Judson with the dad jokes, man.
Okay. Yeah, it makes for interesting discussion. Yes, Kinder Kim, but do some more research. I'll
Right.
have to listen to that video and tell you what I
So
think
now
about it.
I've had the host of Myth Vision, Derek, on my podcast. You know, we had one of my early podcasts. We did a Christmas episode where we wore Christmas sweaters, and you know, and he is just about the most controversial and yet fascinating guy, because you know he started out. Myth Vision was about Jesus mythicism originally, and it was just, you know, and now he's trying to make it, now that he has kind of walked away from Jesus mythicism and kind of like said, you know, been convinced by some of these other opinions that it's entirely plausible that Jesus was a real person, that there was
Right.
at least
But
some.
what the myth is
Jewish
the
man.
biblical Jesus. The
Right.
historical Jesus could have existed.
There were probably lots of Jeshua Bar Josephs walking around.
Yeah.
Right.
There were lots of messiahs in Israel. There are still messiahs there today.
That's
Right.
you
right.
know.
And one of whom claims to be a prophet who believes that in aliens, and you know, that God is an alien, and that
I'm
that alien God appeared to Joseph Smith. And it's
I'm
like,
talking to this guy on
Joseph-
Facebook who claims he saw Jesus. You know, that Jesus had an experience, and I'm telling him he's mentally ill, and he just
Jesus was my gardener
Doesn't-
once. Oh no, that was Jesus. Never mind.
Jesus, yeah, Jesus. Anyway,
Martin Harris claimed that he had a conversation with Jesus, right? In the form
a
of a
deer.
deer.
dear, yeah.
That
Anyway.
gets omitted from the story of the like a lot of details about the story of the witnesses when Mormons talk about the 11 witnesses of the Book of Mormon. It's like one time there was one time where Don Bradley was on Ward Radio, and they went on about, you have a man like Martin Harris who was a business owner. He was a learned man, a well-respected man in the community. Do
He's a
you think
drunkard.
that this man he was a drunk who liked to probably get high on shrooms and go out into the forest? No fault on him. I get it. And go out into the woods and talk to the spirits through the animals, and who knows what else. And he had joined like 7 different churches over the course of his life, most of them before
Testified
Mormonism.
of them all.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, look, guys, it's not a slam on these people to say they lived at the time that they lived, and religion was just kind of a way of getting through the world. If sacrificing a goat with a Mars knife or a dog or whatever might have a chance, demonic and devilish as it is, at bringing in a better crop, Jesus loves us. He'll forgive us. Let's do a little demon worship, man. Do what it takes to bring in a stronger crop. You can't worship God if you're dead. So,
Yeah, 200 years ago, Netflix offerings were just nothing almost. And so they had to do something to entertain themselves.
but the fascinating
Anyway,
thing was that
so-
really the Myth Vision started out as really kind of a platform for Dr. Bob Price. And
I
that's
thought
like a
he
whole
ended his channel. I thought he was done doing that stuff. Did he announce
So-
a few months ago that he was done doing Myth Vision?
that who Price or Derek.
I don't remember which
So
one.
Derek announced a couple like a little over a year ago that he wasn't going to have Dr. Price on anymore, and that he was
Okay.
just going to go on. He was going to commit and he wasn't going to focus on mythicism. He was going to instead focus on myth in general and study all studies of mythology from the
Sort of like
broader world.
What's his name?
Okay.
Campbell.
So Joseph
Right.
Campbell.
Joseph
Kind of
Campbell.
like a Joseph
The
Campbell. I
new
think.
Joseph Campbell.
Right.
Now,
Well,
So
he-
I'm trying
someday
to-
there'll be a Derek Institute.
Okay, so
Myth-
Marquette, are you saying that this guy said that Joseph Smith did or did not know Egyptian?
Yeah.
Reformed
So
Egyptian is something Joseph Smith made up. There is no such language as Reformed Egyptian.
Mhm.
plus, Marquita, I'm not sure if you've given me enough words. I mean, if I look at all your posts, I might be able to get enough words to do a search, but just Bryce Blankenagel is not going to come up with what you saw.
The Hero with 1,000 Faces, but a better book is The Spirit of Shamanism by Roger Walsh, who expands on Campbell's model.
Interesting.
Yes, that's a really good book.
The
'Cause I
curious
knew
thing
about-
about oh, go ahead, sir.
Well, I mean, I knew about Campbell, but when I found Walsh, one day I was in the library just thumbing through the card catalog, which don't exist anymore. And serendipity, right? Oh, look, I'll go check this book out. And I went and I got it and I read it and I went, oh, this is a much deeper meaning. Anyway,
The
better book.
but Bryce Blankenagel's good people. I like his podcast, Naked Mormonism. Also the it's a funny story about that. And then but apparently he went on. I'm just learning this for the first time. Now I have a rabbit hole to go down. That apparently he appeared on Myth Vision, one of my favorite podcasts, and I didn't know, with David Fitzgerald, who is
Really?
I don't. Can I consider David a friend? I mean, we're friends on Facebook and we've talked before. And I like David. I like his work. You know, I think he wrote Nailed, if I remember correctly. He's a myth. He's kind of like my understanding is that he's a mythicist. He does question whether or not Jesus was a historical person. So yeah, that's
Well,
I'm gonna have to look at that.
I'm almost positive he was not a historical person.
Well, I am quite convinced that he probably was not a historical person, at least not in the essential Jesus. Because like
Right. I'm
Right.
going to say right here, there was nobody named Yeshua, or what'd you say, Tim? The Bar
Yeshua Bar Joseph.
Bar Joseph
Yeah, Jesus, son of Joseph.
turned water into wine, walked on water, raised somebody from the dead. What else does the
was
biblical-
crucified either by Jews or Romans or both,
came back to life after dying,
and ascended to the Father.
and
Right.
did he have sex with Mary or not? I don't know. That's a myth. That's a Mormon myth.
Well,
It's a good question. I mean, most of the Gnostics, from what I understand, believe Jesus was married.
Yeah,
In heaven. You
yeah.
know, they had
They
family.
took
in
that
heaven.
away from us. That's like one of the few humaning things that Jesus did.
the Gospel of John is
He
really a
didn't feed
Gnostic
5,000
gospel.
people with loaves and fishes.
Right.
What else didn't he do? He didn't fast for 30 days. and 30 nights.
Probably wasn't born in Bethlehem.
And a
that-
manger.
That's like one of the big giveaways is this whole Bethlehem. Was Jesus born in Bethlehem, and when?
Or Nazareth.
Because you'll hear people say, of course there was a Jesus. You live in the year 2026. That is the whole year numbering scheme is judged by the year that Jesus was born, with no awareness of how
it's
that
off.
actually came about.
And it's off because the calendar changed.
Correct.
There was
The
many Yeshua.
the calendar changed. Plus, the guy who originally came up with it lived hundreds of years later, came up with this idea of when Jesus was born. and used a date for the death of King Herod the First, Herod
That's
the
right.
Great, which is not necessarily the Herod that Jesus would have been born under if he had been born during the census in
Right.
Rome, the census that took place there, as we're led to believe. You know,
Right.
it's,
And
so
the
it's like-
Romans never did censuses that caused people to go back to where they were born.
right,
That never
especially
happened.
especially not before Israel was before Palestine was joined into, was it Syria? I think it was. And so that's because before then they were tributary, they weren't Romans, so you wouldn't
Oh.
need to take a census, because the census was to determine your representation in the Senate.
And Bart
they didn't
Ehrman
have-
says my very favorite story about Jesus is the least likely to have really happened. And that's that he told everybody, "He who is without sin cast the first stone."
Yeah,
That's one of the latest
stories,
entrance into
additions,
the
interpolation.
canon, right?
and in my
Somebody in Greece just
opinion,
came up with that. Like, what would a really great guy do? That's what he would do.
right, that's what it would do.
That's what people are going to say about Gene Judson 50 years from
Right
now.
on, right
Whatever is
on.
convenient. One of my
Yeah.
another one that's my favorite, I don't know if you've heard about this one, is the mystery about Thomas, the story of doubting Thomas.
The Gospel of Thomas.
Well, there's the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah, that's true.
Which
Which is a Gnostic
yeah.
gospel. But
Right.
there's this story about Thomas. Thomas's real name wasn't Thomas. Thomas's
Right.
name was Judah. And Jesus, he had so many Judahs, so many Jesuses, so many Shimeons. He's like, listen, guys, I can't have you all turn around every time I say Shimeon. So listen,
Right.
this Shimeon, okay, this guy, he's like a rock. I could build a church on this guy. And this guy over here, he's like a snake. Is this Judah is like a snake. We're gonna call him Iscariot. And then this guy is like, and this guy, he's got no guile. We'll call this one beloved. He's looking at me, he's beloved. And then he turns to this guy. The name Thomas was Didymus, which means Didymus,
Twin.
which means twin. And so the story about doubting Thomas, there was one theory, just one little theory. It's just an idea that was proposed some time ago. That says somebody wrote this story in response to a rumor, because it doesn't fit otherwise. And what rumor would they have been answering to? Well, it's this one of a Clark Kent problem that they have. What if Thomas is called the twin because he looked like Jesus? After all, there's these stories about Jesus going forth, that they were going to take up stones to cast at him. So he went out among them. Well, what if he had a body double? And it's like, oh, which is the Messiah? Here we go. Ray, scatter. And then they took off. Maybe he used a body double. But of course, that presents a problem. Ever since the resurrection of Jesus, nobody has seen the resurrected Lord and his twin in the same room at the same time. And so that's when all of a sudden, if you wanted to sell a resurrected Jesus to somebody, you'd put in a story that says, listen here, maybe you saw that when the Lord came back, Thomas wasn't one of the people in the room. But there was this other time that Thomas came out, and just conveniently it happens to be the moment when Jesus tells Thomas, because thou hast seen, thou hast believed. Blessed are they who have not seen and yet believe. It's like, it's a little too convenient, fellas. It starts to sound like you're selling on that. There's no way we took Thomas and dressed him up like Jesus and passed him off as the resurrected Lord. That didn't happen. Shut up.
Right. All right, everybody. We'll end the show. And if anybody wants to hop on right now, I'll see you. But I won't add you to the show until we say our goodbyes. Thanks, Joe, for coming on.
Put the link in so people can come if they want to.
Resolved to serve the unsheltered this year. And help us out.
Yeah, help the unsheltered. That's right. Yes.
Like Coral.
All right. So everybody have a good week. Be kind. Be good. Help an immigrant hide.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's 2026. All the errors that you made in 2025 are washed away hereby.
Yeah, everything's done.
Forthwith.
And that was a joke. Nobody do anything illegal.
That's right. We honor
Criminals do
and
not obey
sustain the law.
laws.
That's right.
but we favor getting influence and rewriting the laws.
But I definitely am not moving to Venezuela. Liberate
Right.
Venezuela.